You're not broke because you're lazy. You're not broke because you're dumb. And no, it's not because of your daily coffee. You're broke because no one ever taught you how to think about money. Not in school, not at home, and definitely not on Instagram. But here's the truth. Your money habits shape your future. And some of those habits you don't even realize you have, are keeping you poor. In this episode, we're going to expose the 7 most common money habits that silently sabotage your wealth, and how to flip them without shame, without guilt, and without needing a 6-figure income. If you've ever made money, but still felt broke, this is your wake-up call. Let's dive in.
You ever get that feeling like you're putting in the hours, the effort, but your bank account just looks, well, stubbornly the same, or maybe even worse sometimes. And then that little voice starts creeping in, right? It's like, are you just lazy, not trying hard enough? Is it the coffee you bought?
Yeah, that self-blame thing.
Yeah. Let's really dig into that feeling today, because what we often find is, it's usually not about some personal failing like that.
That's exactly right. What's really interesting when you look into it is that constantly feeling broke, even when you're working really hard, it often isn't actually about how much you earn.
Right.
More often it comes down to a lack of practical financial education and these really deep habits we've picked up without ever consciously thinking about them. I mean, think back, where did you actually learn how to manage money?
It's like we just absorb it, isn't it?
Yeah.
By osmosis, almost. You watch your family, how they handled money, the spending habits all around you.
And that just becomes your default.
Yeah. And living in a culture, especially like here in the U.S., where debt is kind of normalized and there's this constant push to buy. It's so easy to slip into habits that don't really help you long term.
And a really key thing to consider is the emotional stuff around money that so many of us grew up with. Like, were there unspoken worries about paying bills?
Oh, definitely.
Did talking about money cause tension? Or maybe there was just this general feeling of scarcity, even if your basic needs were actually met. Those early feelings, they can really shape how we act with money later on, in ways we're not even aware of.
And it's not like we get a class on this anywhere else, right? We learn calculus maybe, but understanding how credit card interest actually works, that's usually missing.
Totally missing.
Then you got all the media showing these amazing lifestyles that look great, but are often completely unsustainable financially. Makes your own situation feel kind of inadequate.
And all that creates this cycle it's worth looking at. We might overspend to get a quick dopamine hit, feel good for a moment.
Get instant gratification.
Right. The card swipe feels easy, so we avoid actually looking at our bank statements.
Yeah.
And it becomes easier to just think, well, this is just how it is, because it seems like everyone else is doing the same thing.
But just because it's common doesn't mean it's, healthy for our finances. These habits that feel so normal can be quietly digging us into a hole.
Exactly.
And that's really why we wanted to do this deep dive. We're not here to point fingers or make anyone feel bad. The goal is to shine a light on these ingrained, often unconscious money habits and hopefully empower you to start actively rewriting your own financial story.
Yeah. So if you're listening and thinking, my money just seems to vaporize, or I really struggle to save no matter what, or maybe I keep putting off actually making a financial plan.
Yeah, the procrastination.
Then this conversation is definitely for you. We want to help you understand where these habits come from so you can start making choices that feel more deliberate, more intentional.
Okay, so let's get down to brass tacks then. What are some of these really common habits that seem to keep people stuck financially, even if they're working hard and feel like they're doing everything else right? Let's maybe kick things off with habit number 1. That idea of spending to feel successful.
Yeah, this one's interesting because of the immediate feedback you get. You get paid and there's this powerful urge to treat yourself.
Right.
To mark the achievement with a purchase. Maybe it's a new gadget, a nice dinner out, something that gives you that quick hit of pleasure.
That I deserve this voice. We all hear it.
We do, but the tricky part, the danger, is that if you constantly use spending to feel good about your work, you create this dependency. Your sense of accomplishment gets tangled up with buying stuff.
And that just burns through your income without actually building anything lasting.
Yes, exactly. No real progress. Which leads nicely into habit number 2, living paycheck to paycheck, almost like it's the default way to live.
And this isn't just a low-income thing, is it?
Not at all. That's a key point. You can earn a pretty decent salary and still be in this exact situation if your spending just automatically expands to meet your income. The real issue there isn't always the amount coming in, it's the lack of a plan, a proactive plan for where that money should go. Without one, it just vanishes. It finds ways to get spent.
Which brings us very neatly to habit number 3.
Yeah.
Just never tracking your expenses. It sounds so basic, maybe even boring to some people.
So basic.
But if you don't know where the money's actually going, how can you possibly control it? You're flying blind. And we tend to underestimate, don't we? Our brains kind of trick us.
Oh, absolutely. It raises that big question of perception versus reality.
Yeah.
Without the actual data, we rely on gut feelings, maybe vague memories, and those are usually way off.
Yeah.
And tracking doesn't have to be this horrible chore. There are tons of easy apps now, or a simple spreadsheet, even just notebook works.
Whatever works for you.
Right. The crucial thing is just getting that clear picture of your cash flow. Because if you don't know the numbers, you can't manage the money manages you.
Okay, habit number 4 was a big one for a lot of folks. Treating credit cards like they're free money, that plastic swipe feels so frictionless.
It does. And the key thing to get here is the time delay, the disconnect.
Yeah.
You get the thing now, but the paying for it, that's future use problem.
Right. Plus interest.
Plus interest, often. A credit card isn't just extra money you have, it's a loan. A short-term loan, usually with consequences if you don't pay it back fast. That easy swipe turns into real debt later.
So a good rule of thumb.
Yeah, a simple one is, if you can't realistically pay the balance off in full pretty quickly, like when the statement comes, maybe rethink that purchase. It's not the credit card itself that's evil. It's how we sometimes misuse it.
Makes sense. Okay, moving on. Habit number 5. The classic I'll save later mindset. When I get a raise, when things settle down.
Oh, the postponement trap. We've all been there.
Yeah.
But if you think about how habits work, the danger here is pretty clear. Your spending habits, they tend to grow right along with your income unless you actively build the saving habit now.
So waiting for more income doesn't magically create the habit.
Exactly. The core idea is, if you can't manage to save even a small amount, like 5% or whatever, of your current income, it's actually pretty unlikely you'll suddenly start saving a big chunk just because you get a raise. The habit muscle isn't there.
Start small, build the muscle.
Yes, start small. Consistency is way more important than the amount, especially at first.
Got it. Habit number 6 feels related. Having no emergency fund. No safety net, no backup plan for when life inevitably throws you a curveball. It leaves you feeling really exposed.
And what's so crucial to understand is that an emergency fund isn't some luxury item just for rich people. It's fundamental. It's basic financial resilience.
Yeah.
Because unexpected stuff will happen. The tire blows, the boiler breaks, maybe you lose your job for a bit. Without that cushion, those things can completely derail you financially.
And force you onto credit cards or loans again.
Right back into high interest debt. An emergency fund gives you breathing room, it gives you control, peace of mind, and helps you make better decisions when you're stressed. Even starting with just a few $100s is so much better than having nothing.
Absolutely. Okay, and the final one, habit number 7. Upgrading your lifestyle with every single raise. Lifestyle inflation or lifestyle creep.
Yeah, the siren song of more. It's such a common pattern. Your income goes up, so naturally you think, newer car, bigger apartment, more subscriptions, fancier vacations.
It feels like progress.
It feels like progress, exactly. And look, some increase in comfort is totally fine and normal, but if you consistently let your spending rise to meet every single income increase, you never actually get ahead financially.
You just end up slightly more comfortable, but still stuck on that hamster wheel.
Pretty much. You're still just as dependent on that next paycheck. The real key to building wealth is trying to keep your core lifestyle relatively stable as your income grows. That gap, the difference, that's where wealth comes from.
Wow. So, okay, those are 7 habits, pretty common, often feel totally normal, right?
Yeah, very normal.
But they can be major roadblocks. And like we said, just recognizing them, just becoming aware.
Yeah.
That's the huge first step.
It really is. And before we even jump into solutions or fixes, it's worth just pausing on that idea. Awareness itself is such a powerful skill here. Maybe the most underrated financial skill, actually.
It's tempting, isn't it? To immediately think, okay, got to cut everything, strict budget, no more fun, just rely on sheer willpower.
Yeah, go extreme.
But if you don't understand why you're spending that way, those willpower-based efforts often just fizzle out after a week or two.
That really highlights how automatic these spending patterns can be. They get triggered by feelings, boredom, stress, wanting a reward.
Or just habit, routine.
Or routine, yeah. Or even just seeing an ad, they operate almost below the level of conscious thought. So that's why the first step really should be just observation, not restriction, just watching.
So instead of declaring war on your spending habits, just pay attention. Like a scientist studying something.
Exactly like a scientist. Ask yourself honestly, where does my money actually go? Not where I think it goes. What triggers me to spend? Am I tired, bored, anxious? Which purchases do I later kind of regret? And which ones actually feel worthwhile, like they added real value to my life? You don't need fancy software for this part.
So how do you do it practically?
A really good, simple way is to just track everything you spend for a short period, say 1 week, every single thing.
Even the small stuff, the coffee, the parking meter.
Especially the small stuff. Coffee, snacks, Uber rides, those little Amazon orders. Write it all down, app, notebook, whatever. Then at the end of the week, just look at it. Review it with curiosity, not shame or judgment.
Okay, look for patterns, surprises.
Yeah. What patterns pop out? Were there any surprises? Wow, I spent that much on lunches out. And importantly, where does your spending maybe not quite line up with what you say is important to you?
Because that's where the power comes in, right?
Yeah.
Once you see it clearly, those automatic patterns start to weaken.
They lose their grip. You start to notice those little justifications in the moment, oh, go on, you deserve it, thoughts that might actually be derailing your bigger goals.
And from that awareness, you get choice.
Real choice.
Exactly. You can then consciously decide if you want to continue that pattern or try something different. It's not about perfection overnight. It's about making small, informed adjustments based on what you actually see. That clarity, that's what leads to real, sustainable change.
Okay, so awareness is the rock-solid foundation. Now let's flip the coin. What habits should we be actively trying to build? The ones that actually build wealth, even if we don't have a huge income right now.
Yeah, this is crucial. And first, we got to bust that myth that you need to be earning big bucks to build wealth.
Right. It's not just about the income level. Not at all. At its heart, building wealth is about managing what you have effectively, whatever that amount is. You absolutely do not need a six-figure salary to start laying a foundation for a much more secure financial future.
Okay, so what's habit number 1 for actually building wealth?
Prioritize paying yourself first. I know you're a fan of this one too.
Huge fan. It flips the script completely.
It really does. It's a fundamental shift. Before you pay bills, before you allocate money for groceries or fun, you intentionally set aside a portion of your income for your future self.
And it doesn't have to be a huge amount, right?
Not at all. It could be tiny to start $5, $10, maybe just 1% or 2% of your paycheck. The key is the act of prioritizing it. It changes saving from, I'll save whatever's left over, which is often nothing,
Usually nothing.
to saving comes first and automating it. Making that transfer happen automatically to a separate savings account, maybe one you don't look at often, that makes it way more effective. Out of sight, out of mind.
Absolutely. Which leads perfectly into habit number 2. Automate your savings. Systemize it.
Yes. There's that great saying, you don't rise to the level of your intentions, you fall to the level of your systems.
Love that.
Automation basically takes willpower out of the equation for saving. You set it up once, and it just happens.
It's like setting up a recurring transfer every payday.
Exactly. Or using those apps that round up your purchases to the nearest dollar and sweep the change into savings. The less you have to actively think about saving each time, the more likely you are to actually do it consistently.
Makes total sense.
Okay.
Habit number 3 for wealth building. Build that delayed gratification muscle. Woo. This feels like a tough one in today's world.
It can be tough. It's basically the opposite of impulse buying. It's the ability to wait, to pause between wanting something and actually buying it.
So how do you practice that?
A really simple but effective technique is the waiting period rule. Say, for any non-essential purchase over a certain amount, you make yourself wait 24 or maybe 48 hours before buying it.
And what happens?
Often, by the time the waiting period is up, that initial intense urge, that craving, has faded quite a bit. You might realize you don't actually need it or want it that badly. This ability to delay, it's a huge difference between people who tend to spend everything and those who steadily build wealth over time.
Okay, habit number 4. This one's interesting. Spend based on your values, not just your emotions or impulses.
Yeah.
Shifting the question.
Yeah, shifting the internal question. Instead of just asking, can I technically afford this right now? The more powerful question is, does buying this actually align with what matters most to me?
So identifying your core values first. like freedom, experiences, security, creativity.
Exactly. Figure out what's truly important to you. Then consciously direct your spending towards those things, the things that bring you genuine, lasting value and satisfaction. And just as importantly, be ruthless about cutting back on spending in areas that don't align with those values.
So less mindless spending, more intentional spending.
Precisely. Mindless spending often keeps you trapped. Intentional, value-aligned spending actually helps propel you forward toward the life you want.
Love that.
Mm.
Okay, and habit number 5 for wealth builders.
Mm.
How you handle windfalls, like bonuses, tax refunds, maybe birthday money. Using them to build, not just blow.
Mm-hmm. The common reaction to getting unexpected money is often immediate celebration, right?
Oh, yeah. New gadget, fancy dinner, weekend trip. Treat yourself.
Exactly. But someone with a wealth-building mindset tends to ask a different question. How can this extra money buy me more freedom in the future?
So paying off debt, boosting the emergency fund, investing it.
Exactly. Using it strategically. It's not about being boring or depriving yourself. It's about using those opportunities to accelerate your journey toward financial security and independence. Think of every dollar having a job. Your job is to assign it wisely, especially those bonus dollars.
These are also practical things anyone can start doing, really, regardless of income. And the message is powerful. Consistent small actions add up, especially with compounding over time.
They really do. And to make these habits truly stick, to make them last, we need to go one level deeper. We need to talk about our core beliefs, our identity around money.
The identity shift. This feels like where the real lasting change happens, doesn't it? It's not just about doing different things, but being someone different financially.
Absolutely, because so many of us walk around with these limiting beliefs rattling in our heads, often unspoken. Things like, I'm just bad with money.
Heard that one a lot. Or, I can never seem to save.
Yeah, or people like me don't get wealthy, or I'll always be playing catch up. These aren't just thoughts. They function like invisible rules, defining what we think is possible for ourselves.
They become self-fulfilling prophecies. But the truth is, like we discussed, nobody is born bad with money.
Nobody. Financial skills are learned, they're practiced. They can be mastered just like any other skill set.
So how do you challenge those limiting beliefs? How do you flip the script?
It's about actively reframing them. Not just wishful thinking, but reframing with an actionable intent. So I'm bad with money becomes something like, I am learning how to manage my money more effectively.
Okay, active and ongoing.
Right. I never save becomes I am building the habit of saving, starting small.
Uh-huh.
I'll always be broke transforms into I am becoming someone who builds wealth over time.
It's like you're retraining your brain, reprogramming your expectations for yourself and your future.
You really are. And it's powerful because our actions tend to follow our identity. If you see yourself as a spender, you'll find ways to spend. If you start genuinely seeing yourself as a saver, as a builder,
You'll start acting like one.
you will. And those small actions we talked about, opening that savings account, saying no to one impulse buy, tracking your spending for a week, they provide proof. They build evidence for your brain that supports this new identity.
So the small steps reinforce the belief, and the belief encourages more steps. It's a positive cycle.
Exactly. You shift from just, I hope I can do this, to this is who I am now. I'm someone who manages money well. I'm a builder. It's about progress, not demanding perfection right away. You don't need to be rich already to adopt this mindset.
And just by listening this far, by engaging with this, you've already taken a step. You're showing yourself you're interested in becoming that person.
A huge step. Absolutely.
Okay, so let's try and bring this all together. I can imagine someone listening might feel a bit overwhelmed right now, maybe looking back at past mistakes, feeling like it's too much to fix. What's the main takeaway message for them?
Yeah, overwhelm is totally normal. Financial stuff can feel heavy, and it's easy to get discouraged by past habits. But the absolute core message is, you are not too late.
Okay.
You are not too far behind, and you are absolutely 100% not stuck. Change is possible.
And it doesn't have to be this massive, dramatic overhaul overnight, right? Often it's just one or two small shifts done consistently.
That's it, exactly. Focus on momentum, not perfection. Small, consistent actions build up powerfully over time. Like checking your bank balance every morning just to be aware?
Simple, takes 30 seconds.
Or setting up that tiny automatic transfer we talked about, $5 a week, whatever. Or just consciously saying no to one small habitual expense this week so you can put that money towards a bigger goal.
These little quiet choices, they don't feel dramatic, but they add up.
They really do. And those small wins, they create real progress. That progress builds confidence, and that confidence makes you feel more capable, more unstoppable eventually.
So if you're listening and asking yourself, can I really change my money situation?
The answer is yes. Absolutely yes. You don't always need to earn more right away. Often the most powerful first step is just stopping the leaks, fixing those old habits that aren't serving you.
Structure and consistency over just relying on motivation, which comes and goes.
Systems over willpower. And remember, you don't need permission from anyone to start. You've already given yourself permission by tuning in, by learning.
So what's one immediate action step?
Pick one thing, just one. Maybe commit to tracking your spending for the next 3 days. Or take 5 minutes right now to set up that tiny automatic savings transfer. Or identify one old habit you want to pause and one new tiny habit you want to start.
Keep it small, make it achievable.
Exactly. You're closer than you think, and you're definitely not alone on this path. Take a breath. You've got this.
Okay, so as you go about your week, maybe just think about this. Which normal money habit, one you've just accepted, might actually be holding you back? And what's one tiny intentional thing you can do today, literally today, to start shifting things in a better direction? What's that first small step you can take right now?
Thank you for listening. If this episode resonated with you, the best way to support the podcast is to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Every bit of support helps us keep creating content that actually matters. See you in the next one.